All right, here we are for the second installment of Cowboy Zone Roundtable, and I'm joined this evening by to my left, the top left there is Mike, and he is known as Pick Six on the forum, and then down bottom left is Rob, and he is Cajun Cowboy. He looks like a Cajun cowboy, just like we thought he would. There we go. He's down at the bottom left, and then we've got Reagan, bottom right, who's also my youngest son. What's your forum name, Ray? You never get on the forum, but what's your forum name?
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm able to get on there. But it's RCALDW9.
Nine. So yeah.
60 years with the number 9.
There we go. Our Caldwell 9. All right. Well, exciting game coming up in 2 days. Can't wait. Thanksgiving Day game against what may be our arch rival, the Washington Redskins. We hate the Redskins. And this one, maybe it was unbelievable to us just a few weeks ago, but this one's going to matter. If we win this game, we are in tied for first place in the NFC East, and can't wait. So here's where we're going to start. We're going to start with last week's game, the Atlanta game. I'm going to ask each of you to comment on this. I just want you to briefly review last week's game. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? And do you think it helped us in any way beyond the win itself? So as we think about this week and the rest of the season, does that Atlanta game sort of keep us moving forward, or was it just valuable for the win itself? Rob, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, well, I think this last game with Atlanta is kind of a microcosm of what we've seen this year. We've seen some really good play at times from the team, and we've seen some poor play calling at times. And so I think we saw a little bit of all of that in this last game. Although the play calling was much better this time, there were still times where you questioned some of what Linehan was doing. The biggest thing that I had a concern about, even though we won the game, was our failure to take advantage of opportunities. When you're kicking field goals, when you're down deep like that, when you get a turnover, instead of getting a touchdown, and you let a team, you got a guy like Matt Ryan, you got Julio Jones, you got these guys, you let them hang around, they're going to make you start biting your fingernails. And so glad for the win. Zeke had a great game. The offensive line started to gel a little bit better. Suafila has filled in remarkably well for Williams, and so I think we're winning with an up arrow, but there's still some things that we need to address to be able to hang with a team like the Saints, those guys. So. But going forward, I thought that we gained some confidence, and I thought overall it was a good win.
Good job, Rob. Thank you, Mike. How about you? What do you think?
Well, anytime you can get a win on the road, especially when you go on the road back-to-back weeks, I think the stat is something like if you win the first week, you lose the second one 3/4 of the time, and so any win on the road against at least a fairly quality opponent with a tough offense is a good thing to get. I agree a lot with Rob, though. I thought we left some points definitely on the field. We didn't take advantage of opportunities that we could have, and part of that was play calling, part of that was execution. I think they're lacking in both of those. Pretty much in every game, it seems like there's improvements that need to be made in both of those areas. But yeah, I didn't like the fact that we didn't seem to get our wide receivers involved in that first half at all. We did a better job of that in the second half. They got them going. The first half of the games, it just seems like they're trying to jockey for position. They're just trying to spin it. Instead of really attacking, they're just out there kind of feeling their way until they finally decide, okay, then we'll go in at halftime and we'll figure out what we want to try to do. And hopefully we're still in the game, which most of the time they have been. I like that they got the ball to Zeke in positions where he could really do something. A lot of times this year they've gotten him the ball, but it's it'll be like third and long, and they'll throw a 4 or 5 yard pass to him, and he won't get a first down. So it really doesn't do anything for you. I think with Amari out there, he's made a huge difference, and so it's good because they won a couple of games that they probably would have lost earlier in the year. So they found ways to win those games as opposed to finding ways to lose. So that's good. And then, with everything going on in Washington, and now that we're only a game behind, and if we win on Thursday, now we're tied for first. And I wouldn't say we're in the driver's seat just yet because we do have the Saints and the Colts coming up, but
right,
they're in a much better position. So yeah, I mean the arrow's definitely going up, but it's not screaming up.
Yeah, I think sometimes what we forget is other than just a handful of teams. Now I'm thinking about, on any given year, it may be the Patriots, for example. But this year you think about Kansas City, you think about the Rams, you think about the Saints. Other than just a handful of teams that are killing their opponents, this is a 500 league. This is a league made up of teams that just play right around the 500 level. And, I mean, if we don't have the bogus penalty call against Washington and we go into overtime with them, maybe we win that one. If we don't choke it up against the Texans and we end up winning that one, I mean, this team could just as easily be 7-3 right now as 5-5. And so I agree with both of you guys. It seems like the one thing that bothers me about our approach, and some would say this is a strength, this is what we should do, but it just seems to me like we play to stay around until the fourth quarter and then hope to win it late. And I think when you play with that strategy, you're going to lose as many as you win because there's just no room for margin. And I'd like to see us be aggressive, go in there and try to, have this thing put away by the end of the third quarter if we can. And if not, at least be aggressive about it. Reagan, what were your thoughts about last week's game?
Yeah, I think everybody would agree that more than anything, finally good to see something go our way, at the last kick. I mean, so many times we've seen a missed kick or you said the snap infraction. And I just felt like at the end of the game, man, I've seen this before. And so just finally encouraging to see something go our way. I think we'd all also agree that final play calling, for the most part of the game was decent, better than what it has been. And so, last couple of weeks have been encouraging from that standpoint. From a negative standpoint, it felt like secondary and just how they threw the ball over us, was a little discouraging. It seems like they moved the ball really easily for the most part of the game. Now, granted, we held them to 19 points, but overall, I mean, obviously an encouraging win.
Yeah, I mean, coming into this game, Atlanta, I forget exactly what they were averaging, but that's a 30-point kind of offense. And we held them to 19. So I think that ought to encourage us. Again, in today's NFL, people are going to move the ball. They just are. You're not going to, the days of the 70s or even the 90s where you would shut teams down to almost nothing. You rarely see that. Just look at Monday night's game, 54-51. That's the new NFL. So I think if we can hold a team to 19 points that have those kind of weapons, that encourages me. Our defense is looking pretty good. And I love the fact we can drain the clock. So when I think about, Rob, when I think about a team like the Saints, or Mike, when I think about a team like, perhaps in the future, the Rams, Kansas City, my one hope, I know we can't match them through the air. We don't have that kind of game. But if we can drain the clock with our running game and play great defense, then maybe we can make enough plays to win. Any other thoughts on the Atlanta game before we move on to this week's game? Any of you guys, anything you want to chip in?
I just want to comment on something that you said earlier that bears remembering quite often here, is that you said about this being a 500 league.
Yeah.
It's specifically designed to be a 500 league. I mean, it's been set up that way. It is with salary cap and with the parity and, the realignments and everything. It's really what they've strived to do because they wanted to ensure that every team in every market had a viable opportunity to be successful. And although the Cleveland Browns really hadn't taken advantage of that much, most of the teams in most of those markets had some competitive teams going throughout the years. So I think when we, us old school guys, we remember the Cowboys back in the 70s, and then in the 90s when we were constantly winning all the time. And we're disappointed, and we look at what we're doing right now, and man, we're struggling to be 500. And we got to keep that in perspective as to how this league has changed. So your point about this being a 500 league is you just got to keep that in perspective.
I agree, Rob. Well, let's think about Thursday's game. Now, we've got a couple of challenges. You've got Michael Gallup's brother, very sadly, committing suicide, and that's got to affect him. I saw today that he is going to play, apparently, and perhaps that incentivizes a really good game. Maybe that motivates him to play even better. But that's going to be a challenge. And then Jeff Swaim is out with a wrist injury. Let's start with you can comment on either one of those, but I'm thinking now about Swaim. What are we going to do to replace his absence in the lineup? Personally, I hope we don't see a lot of Blake Jarwin. I hope we see Schultz, or go 4 wide and try it that way. What do you think we're going to see? Mike, I'll start with you. What do you think? How do you think they're going to try to offset this?
Well, I think you're going to see Noah Brown out there quite a bit to try to offset that, because I don't know how much faith they really have in any of those other guys. You might see a smattering of snaps by Jarwin, by Schultz, by Rico. It seems like we need to have at least one tight end on the field the entire time, or else the island's just going to blow up. Just an old Lost reference. It's just, hitting the button basically. I'd love to see us go more 4 wide. That'd be great.
Too.
But a lot of that, I think, hinges on if Gallup does indeed play. Because then you could have him out there with Beasley. You got Cooper. You got Hearns. And they could run some more things like that. And I think we're going to see more of Wale and out there. He may get a few more snaps. So I think they'll replace him somewhat in the aggregate. But like I said, I kind of look to see Noah Brown probably get more of those snaps, because he's kind of they just seem to really like him and always really want to hang on to him. And I think maybe they see him in that kind of hybrid tight end wide receiver.
I agree, Mike. Yeah. He's a good blocker from the wide receiver position. That's why they like him out there. A lot more than his pass catching ability, though he's not terrible there, but they love his run blocking. Rob, what do you think?
Well, losing Swaim is an issue, obviously, but at the end of the day, the tight end really hasn't been a focal point of this offense a lot. I don't know if we've figured out how to replace Witten. I don't think they have, obviously. So I think it's been kind of a grab bag of, certainly there's been guys that's been better than others, but, I'm kind of about our tight ends anyhow. I mean, Rico was supposed to be the big project, and he was supposed to be – should have been the year that he was going to turn into whatever he was supposed to turn into, and we've seen very little from him. So I don't know. I would rather see what, like you were saying, go 4 wide and spread this thing out and make some holes for Zeke.
So far, Swaim, in terms of targets, is 4th on the team. You have Cole Beasley, 59 targets, Zeke, 56, Gallup, 36, and then Swaim, 32. And in terms of receptions, he's 3rd on the team. So you have Beasley leading the way with 45, Zeke second with 42, and then Swaim is 3rd with 26. And the next closest guy is 16. That's Gallup and Hearns sharing that. Now, these statistics just show Amari since he joined the team, and we know he's going to be much more involved than what these statistics say. But since he's come to the Cowboys, 23 targets in 3 games, and 14 catches in 3 games. So
yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think these other guys are the other tight ends that we had to fill in are going to be utilized to a point where we'll go, oh, okay, we found the guy that's going to replace Swaim. So.
Reagan, you can comment on that if you want to, but I'm going to also pick up another subject with you. On the Washington side of the ball this week, you got Colt McCoy now filling in for Alex Smith for the rest of the year. Smith goes down with that horrific ankle injury. What a weird thing that was. I mean, it happens on the 40-yard line on the very same place in the field where Theismann suffered his injury, on the same day when Theismann suffered his injury. Just a really weird set of circumstances there. But anyway, McCoy's in the game. And then I continue to be amazed by Adrian Peterson. Here's an older guy, but he's not playing like an older guy right now. Over 700 yards rushing. He's averaging 4.2 per carry. He's been really effective for them. So what are your thoughts about you can comment on Swaim if you want to, but also the Washington side of the ball?
Yeah, ultimately, I think it's obviously going to start up front with their defensive line. You shut down the run. You put pressure on McCoy and force him to throw. I think that's essentially where the game lies is our defensive line and linebackers.
Yeah, maybe on both sides of that of the ball. How our offensive line goes is how our team goes, and when they struggle, we struggle, and when they play dominant, we win football games. Rob, what do you think? What about the Washington side of the ball for this game?
Yeah, I agree with Reagan. Really, we got to get to Colt, make him do Colt-like things, throwing interceptions, throw erratically. Again, if this lies, I believe this is a defense game. This is one where anytime the Cowboys and Redskins get together, you never really know what you're going to get because they could both be terrible and then come out and they both look like world beaters, and they could both be great and we come out and lay an egg. We never know when this game comes around. With that being said, though, I think that the defense is going to have to be the key here. Get the Colt, get the pressure on him, stop Adrian, and we should, if we do that, we should win this thing, and we should win it by double digits.
Mike, how about you? What do you think?
If we win by double digits, great, and I agree with you. But just the nature of the way this team plays, I don't really see it unless we get a lot of things go our way. If we can get some consistent pressure on Colt, who impresses me a lot more than I think you would think he would. I was really impressed by the way they hung in there after Smith got hurt. I thought they would be done against Houston, but they went back and forth with him, took a lead, and got themselves in a position where, a little closer than they end up winning that game against a good Texan team. So, we got to keep the same formula that we've done so far. Yeah, we've got to pressure. We've got to play good, solid defense. We need to limit Peterson better than we did the first game. I think that didn't kill us, but I think it hurt us more than we would like to have seen. We'll see what's up with some of the other guys like Crowder and Thompson and those guys who've been out, and see if they play at all. But we need to protect the ball like we have been, not turn it over to them. And we need to take advantage of opportunities, because Washington does have a pretty stout defense, but the opportunities are going to be there. And I think one of the nice things is we have Cooper now, who we didn't have the first time around. So I think that's a big plus for us. And, again, you're talking about playing on a short week too. And it's always nice to be able to play at home on a short week. All you're really doing is walkthroughs and practice. You're not really doing a whole lot. So I think if we do that, it'd be nice to see if we could pull away, but don't be surprised if it's another, 6-6 game at halftime, and we're throwing things at the wall again.
Yeah. If you don't want to be discouraged, don't go into the game thread. We start
exactly.
We're finished after the first 3 plays. We're done in the season.
Yeah,
it's how it always is. So if you don't want to be discouraged, don't go in there. So give me your gut feel then. I want your best prognostication here. What do you think happens Thursday? What do you think happens? Reagan, I'll start with you.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm the optimistic guy. Always have been. So part of me wants I'm hoping this is the game where you find, the stride on offense and on defense. And it's a Jaguar-like game that we just steamroll. I'm hoping that's what happens. and I'm kind of with Mike on that. I think it's either one end of the spectrum or the opposite, in the sense of it's either going to be very close, and we're down to the last kick, similar to Sunday, or it's going to be the opposite where it opens up and it's a steeple.
I'm not asking you for possibilities. I'm asking you for your pick. What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to be?
I mean, yeah, it's Dallas for sure. One way or the other.
So Dallas wins this one. Big or small? What's your gut feel?
Gut feel, I would say double digits. I'm going to go with Rob on that. Double-digit win. Probably tighter at the beginning, and second half opens up.
All right, Rob. Now I knew you already said double digits, but you can go off on that. Tell me anything else you want to tell me about Thursday. What are we going to see?
Well, 27-14, Dallas. I just think I know I've said it before, and I've been like wanting to find a hole to put my head in afterward, but I got a feeling, and I just feel like this team has some more confidence now. They played on defense. They've been playing with confidence on defense all year, but I think now with Cooper there, I think they're playing with better confidence. I think we'll do better. I'm not. By the way, one thing I want to mention: I'm not totally convinced that Scott Linehan is solely calling all the plays.
Really?
Yeah. I just think somebody else has now taken over some of maybe the preparation. I just think Garrett's kind of more involved with it now. I'm not saying he's calling the plays specifically, but I think maybe he's had a conversation, getting more involved in the game plan, because it just looks different now. And even though I don't think Amari Cooper makes a difference, but in situational things, they're not doing the bad things as consistently as they were in terms of play calling. So I don't think a leopard changes his spots. So I don't think Linehan changed his philosophy. I think maybe Garrett changed it for him a little bit because he's playing for his job or coaching for his job too. So I think maybe that gives this team a little bit more confidence on the offensive side of the ball. That's why I feel confident that we can go out there and win this thing by double-digit points. Atlanta's a much better team, in my opinion, than Washington is, especially now with their quarterback out. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that for a fact about the play calling. It just seems
different.
It just seems different, and I don't believe that Linehan just said, let me just change the way I do things completely.
Mike, give us your – No, it's all good.
Just to go off of that, I will say it was nice to see us actually do some like crossing routes over the middle.
Yeah.
How
about that?
I just about fell off my couch, and I just was like, oh my, that first one in the first half, when he threw it to Beasley, who came from the slot from the right, crossed over to the left, I thought, okay, where's that been all year? It's like, oh my gosh, a crossing route. And then, we had a couple more times through the game. The one at the end where Dak kind of floated it to him, but then there was another one that was a lot like that earlier in the game where Dak kind of moved to his left, but he got hit as he threw it, and the ball kind of sailed. Beasley went up, knocked it down. But it did seem like we were trying to use the middle of the field a little bit more, which we hadn't seen. So if that's a Garrett thing, I don't know. I'm still seeing the the four verticals, the run to the sticks and turn around.
Yeah, that's so strange.
That you just know you're going to see that. We didn't see the naked bootleg, I don't think, against Atlanta that I can remember. I think we shelved that one this time, which was good after Dak basically got almost got broken in half by Michael Bennett against the Eagles. But no, I think it's going to be a tight game through the half, and then I think second half, I want to say we'll get away from them. We'll make a couple of plays on both sides of the ball, and I'd like to say, okay, I'll say we'll win by 10.
So everybody so far is double digits.
Maybe a 27-17 game.
Okay. I'm with you guys. I think we play well Thursday. I hope I'm not wrong about that. I think we play well Thursday, and if we play well, I think we're a much better team than that team. I honestly believe we have the talent on our team to be dangerous in the playoffs. I do. But we haven't played like it. I'd be the first one to admit it. I mean, we just haven't consistently played like it. but I think we have the talent to be that kind of team. And so I see a double-digit win on Thursday also. It'll be interesting to see. And that's why, look, I don't wear this around the house all the time. I'm sporting it now because last week and we won. So there it is again, Dak hat, white little pullover. We're going for it on Thursday. That's what we're doing. Final thoughts before we wrap this up. Well, a couple things I want to talk about after we do this, but real quick. Hall of Fame today, Jimmy Johnson, Darren Woodson, semifinalists. Apparently Gil Brandt, a finalist, I guess maybe in the older division where they bring people in later.
The contributor category.
Okay. All right. You guys' thoughts about that, Jimmy and Darren? Anybody who wants to start us? Rob, you're into the – I'm going to have you talk about this in a little bit, but your business. But what do you think about the Hall of Fame situation here?
Yeah, well, I think Darren Woodson definitely needs to be in. I think I think this is it might be his second or third year of eligibility, I think. So I think he should have been in last time.
Yep.
Jimmy, look, I know he won 2 Super Bowls, okay, but there was a whole lot of talent that he helped assemble and put on that field, and so you got to give him credit for that. But when he left Dallas, he didn't do much of anything in Miami. So I don't know. If you're going to take up – I think you got to look at the rest of that class and say, does he deserve to go in before some of these other guys? And because they're only going to allow a maximum of 5 I guess what do they call them? The eligible players, not the seniors or the contributors.
Right.
So you got to ask yourself, are there 5 other guys that deserve it more than him? And I think there are. Darren Woodson being one of them. I always think you give the nod to the player if it's a tie before you give it to the coach. So Darren Woodson, I think, yes. Jimmy Johnson is very close, but I think he deserves to be in at some point, but just not yet. He needs to find that niche. Gil Brandt absolutely deserves to be in, and he should have been in a long time ago.
For sure. Mike, do you think Darren gets in? Do you think Jimmy gets in?
Well, I've been a big an ardent supporter of the idea of Darren Woodson being in the Hall of Fame, especially – and this is no slam against Brian Dawkins, because I loved him as a player too, even though he was an Eagle. He's that guy you just kind of love to hate, but you always wish he was on your team. But I really, and maybe I'm just biased and I don't really know enough to say, but I was surprised that Dawkins got in before Woodson did. I just and if Dawkins or if Dawkins belongs in, then definitely Darren Woodson belongs in. I got to believe. As far as Jimmy, Jimmy had a great run for about 2 or 3 years where it was just unbelievable and how we put that team together. Is that enough? That's kind of like looking at a player and saying, okay, he had a great run for about 3 years where he was just on top of the world. But, the rest of the time, granted, he inherited a terrible team when he came here. So it took him a while to get going. And once they did, they were on top of the league for several years because of a lot of the things that Jimmy did. So I loved him. But again, it was short-lived, and then he went to Miami and really was okay, but nothing great. So, and it wasn't like he had a super long tenure. I think that's another thing that works in a coach's favor in the Hall of Fame is if they're, like Shula or Belichick or somebody like that, or even Ditka that just does it for a long period of time. Of course, Ditka was a player too, so that helped a lot. And I'm not sure if he got in more because of what he was as a player versus a coach, but again, between the two, he had such a long NFL tenure, whereas Jimmy's was somewhat limited. So, yeah, I'm with Rob. I would put Woody in before I would put Jimmy in. I'd like to see them both go in, but definitely, definitely Gil Brandt and I believe Woodson belongs in there as well.
Okay, Ray, I know you got to run, son. Any thoughts on this before you go? You're muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
No, unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to watch them whenever I was younger. So from what I did watch, I obviously agree with you guys. Darren Woodson heck of a player and fun to watch. So hoping he gets in for sure.
All right, man. Thanks for joining us, Reagan.
Thanks, guys. Good to meet you.
All right. Real quick before we run, Rob and Mike, you guys I've not been able yet to do a Meet the Forum with you guys. So if you would just take 2 or 3 minutes and tell us something about yourself for the guys. We all interact with each other on the forum under these forum names, but it's good to get to see each other face to face and get to know one another a little bit, and I think it helps us to be kinder to each other on the forum. Yeah. Because we don't just have nameless, faceless typing going on. So Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself real quick, if you would.
Real quick, I'm an athletic trainer. So I've been in the sports world and the rehab world in some way, shape, or form for over 20 years. I'm originally from Northwest Indiana, out by Chicago, but I'm a child of the 70s, and so my older brother and I grew up playing that little electric football game with the buzzing men.
I had it too.
It was always Pittsburgh and Dallas, and my brother liked Pittsburgh, so I was always Dallas. And then the first Super Bowl I really remember watching was Super Bowl 12 when they beat the Broncos, and they were just an easy team to fall in love with. I went to Indiana University. I've lived in about half a dozen places around the country. I'm a bit of a nomad. About to have a birthday in a couple of days, so looking forward to eating some. I'm a ham guy, not a turkey guy, but eating some ham and pumpkin pie, watching the Cowboys, and celebrating a birthday. So I've lived in Cincinnati, I've lived in Indianapolis, Chicago, Seattle. Now I live in Fort Worth. That's about it.
Awesome. Well, it's good to meet you, Mike. Rob, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Born and raised in Pennsylvania. My mom was Cajun and from Louisiana, obviously. And so much to the chagrin of half of my family, I became a Cowboy fan in 1968. But being born and raised in Pennsylvania, I had to fight a lot of Eagles and Steeler fans growing up. So, but it was all well worth it because the Cowboys, for the most part, were kicking butt during that time. So, of course, I think everybody knows from the posts on the forum, I have a company called Signature City. A shameless plug there. We do autograph events with former Dallas Cowboy players. We're starting to get into some other things now, but my passion really is the history, very much like Hostiles is the history of this Cowboy team. And I just think it's important for people to hear the stories of these legends, have an opportunity to talk with them. And, if they want to get an autograph or a picture, that's fine. But I just think it's important to keep the history of the team alive, and that's really what our focus is. So for me, that's me.
Thank you for doing that, Rob. And for I don't know that anyone else would know this. Rob told me this, but Rob did a radio show that was syndicated and was on in several places around the country. So one of these days we'll do a Meet the Forum. We'll get into that, Rob. Guys, thank you for joining me tonight, and I'm going to get this edited and get it uploaded for the guys who want to watch it on the forum. But it was fun, and I appreciate you taking your time to do it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You guys have a great evening.
Well, nice to meet you, Rob.
You too.
Good to meet you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys indeed.
Go Cowboys. Happy